Something feels off, and you can't explain it. You should be angry. You should be anxious. You should be reliving every hurtful word, every moment of betrayal, every sick game they played. But you're not. Instead, there's a stillness resting over you like a quiet fog in the early morning. Not apathy, not denial. Something deeper. You feel calm, unnaturally calm. And that's what's confusing, because what they did wasn't small. It broke something in you. They mocked your sincerity, lied with ease, discarded you like you were disposable. You cried out to God in the dark. You questioned your worth. You wondered if justice would ever come. And now, just when you'd expect your heart to burn with rage or ache with longing, there is only peace. But this peace is not your own. This stillness is not self-made, it's spiritual. God is doing something behind the scenes. He's holding your soul still. He's shielding your emotions. He's quieting the storm inside you, because he's setting the stage. The narcissist who broke you is on their way back, not to pick up where they left off, but to finally face the truth. They're coming not in confidence, but in trembling. Not in control, but in collapse. They don't know why they can't sleep, why everything is falling apart, why guilt is clawing at their chest. But you do. God is calling them to account. And you're not being kept calm by accident. You are being kept calm by design. This isn't about reconciliation. This is about confrontation, divine confrontation. The kind that turns tables and lifts the humble and brings the proud to their knees. You are not called to fight in this moment. You are called to stand still and witness what happens when God sends justice through the door. God is holding you in peace because the battle is already won. There's a kind of peace that doesn't come from the absence of noise. It comes from the presence of God. And that's what you're living in right now, even if you haven't fully realized it. The storm may still be raging around you. The past might still be echoing in your memory. The person who broke your heart may still be out there pretending nothing happened. And yet, something has shifted. Something deep inside you has gone quiet, not from exhaustion, but from sovereignty. You aren't numb. You aren't cold. You haven't become careless. No. What you are is protected, spiritually protected, by a God who sees the full picture when all you could see was broken pieces. This is the kind of peace that only comes when God himself steps in and says, enough. Enough tears, enough overthinking, enough reliving every conversation that kept you up at night, enough trying to figure out why someone so cruel could be so calm while you were falling apart. That question has haunted your spirit long enough. And now God has taken it out of your hands and into his own. He's not just healing you, he's fighting for you. And that's why you've been feeling strange lately. That quiet in your spirit, that stillness that doesn't make sense. It's not denial, it's divine. It's the evidence that the battle is already over in the spirit, and the outcome is no longer in question. You don't feel pressed to defend yourself anymore, because heaven has already ruled in your favor. There was a time when your days were filled with emotional exhaustion. You couldn't think straight. You doubted yourself. You questioned if you were the problem. The narcissist played games with your mind, distorted reality, and twisted your words until you forgot who you were. But God never forgot, and he never stopped watching. While the narcissist was gathering lies, God was gathering truth. While they built stories, God was building justice. And while they seemed to move on with ease, God was preparing a reckoning they never saw coming. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard in this season. You don't need to prove anything. Heaven heard your cries in secret. Heaven saw what they did behind closed doors. Heaven watched you suffer with dignity and walk away without revenge. And so now, God is holding you still, not to silence you, but to honor you. This peace, this supernatural stillness, is not weakness. It's a weapon, because nothing disrupts the enemy like a believer who refuses to panic. The narcissist thought you'd fall apart without their attention. They thought your silence meant defeat. But the truth is, God placed His hand over your soul, and what they're seeing now is not weakness, it's anointing. You have been seated in a place of spiritual elevation. That calm you carry isn't your doing, it's the Spirit of God resting on you, preparing you not to fight, but to witness. To witness what happens when God answers your tears with divine accountability. There is no fear in your spirit because your soul already knows the outcome. The narcissist is unraveling. Their peace is gone. Their charm is fading. Their circle is thinning. But you are steady. You are still. Because the battle has already been won, and the victory is so certain, God doesn't even want you to move. This is the silence before the moment they show up, shaking, stumbling over words, forced to face everything they buried, and everything you forgave without ever receiving closure. But the truth is, you don't need closure from them. You got it from God. What you're feeling right now is sacred. It's not apathy, it's alignment. Your spirit is in rhythm with heaven's timeline. The shaking is not yours, it's theirs. The urgency is not yours, it's theirs. You are calm because God has stationed you on holy ground, and what's coming next isn't your fight, it's your justice. But while you've been wrapped in this divine stillness, something very different has been happening on the other side, in the life of the narcissist. Because while God has been calming you, He's been confronting them. They are being forced to face everything they did. There is a weight that comes for every unrepentant heart. A weight so heavy it can crush even the most arrogant soul. And right now, that weight is falling on the narcissist. Slowly, strategically, spiritually. Not by coincidence, but by divine design. For so long they danced through life untouched by the pain they caused. They laughed while you cried. They rebranded themselves as the victim while leaving you to wrestle in the dark with shame, confusion, and silence. They turned your love into a weapon. They turned your trust into an advantage. And they turned your breakdown into their freedom. But what they never realized, or refused to believe, is that God doesn't forget what was done to His child. You see, when you were sitting alone in your car, screaming into the silence, hoping God heard you, He did. When you were lying awake at 2 a.m., trying to figure out what you did wrong, what you could have done differently, what made you not enough, He saw that too. And when they were out pretending to be someone else, charming, smiling, manipulating new people the same way they did you, God was building a case. Because justice in the kingdom of God is not like justice in this world. It doesn't come when you want it. It doesn't come through vengeance or shouting or proving your worth to anyone. It comes when heaven says, now it's time. And now it is time. This narcissist, who built a tower out of lies, climbed it with pride, and looked down on your brokenness like it was your fault, is about to be pulled down by the very truth they tried to bury, not by you, but by God. And here's the part that will humble even the hardest heart. They're not just being exposed, they're being forced to feel it. God isn't just reminding them of what they did, He's allowing the weight of it to pierce their spirit. He's stripping away their distractions, their false confidence, their enablers, their illusion of control, one by one, until all that's left is them and the truth. They're starting to see your face in their dreams, not the smiling face they used to manipulate, but the hurt face. The one they laughed at, ignored, or mocked. That image is chasing them now. It won't go away. It's there when they close their eyes. It's there when the room goes quiet. And it's God who put it there, because you were never crazy. You were never too sensitive. You were never too much. You were their consequence, sent too early for them to understand. And now that consequence is returning, matured, sharpened, and backed by the full authority of heaven. They tried to move on like it never happened. They tried to erase you from the storyline. But God has a way of sending people back to the very place they betrayed, not to relive the past, but to face it. So don't be surprised when they show up confused, disoriented, even angry. That's conviction unraveling the pride they thought would protect them forever. They may not even fully understand why they feel tormented, but you will. You'll know that God is dealing with them, not with a sword, but with something much heavier. Truth. And here's what makes this so sacred. You don't need to participate. You don't need to scream or list the things they did or rehearse your trauma one more time. Your silence will say more than your words ever could. Because now it's their turn to remember, to confess, to break. And they will. They will remember what they said behind your back. They will remember how they left you when you needed them most. They will remember the look in your eyes when you realized who they really were. And most of all, they will remember that you loved them deeply, fully, sacrificially. And they will realize they destroyed something sacred. This is the hand of God at work. Not your vengeance, not your plot. This is divine accountability. He is forcing them to sit in the very silence they once gave you. He is making them taste the abandonment they served you on a silver platter. He is taking every stone they threw at your character, your heart, your identity, and he's placing those stones in their hands now. And as they try to carry them, they will find themselves trembling. Because God is not cruel, but he is just. If you know deep in your spirit that God is exposing what they tried to hide and forcing them to face what they ran from, write this in the comments. God is confronting them with what they did to me, and I will be still. And now, under the full weight of that confrontation, they're being sent back, not with pride, but with fear. And when they arrive, you won't be seeing the same version of them. You'll be seeing the version that God broke. They return in fear, stripped of ego, strength, and power. There was a time when they stood tall and unbothered, a time when they walked away from you like nothing sacred had been lost. They held their head high while yours was bowed in pain. They moved through rooms with confidence while you could barely make it through a day without breaking down. Their ego filled every space they entered, and for a while, they believed that ego would protect them forever. But it didn't, because God has a way of peeling back pride, layer by layer, until what's left is not the image they created for the world, but the raw truth of who they really are. And now, that's what they're carrying, the weight of who they became, and the cost of who they broke to maintain that image. The narcissist is returning, but not with swagger, not with charm, not with manipulative smiles. They are returning with fear in their bones and shame in their eyes. There's a shaking in them that they can't explain. They feel sick. They feel nervous. The words they once used to twist and control don't come so easily anymore. That magnetic confidence they wore like armor is gone, and in its place is something they've never allowed themselves to feel fully until now. Remorse. But this isn't the remorse of someone who got caught. It's the remorse of someone who's been exposed in the presence of God and who knows they are standing on holy ground. They're coming to you without their usual weapons, no lies rehearsed, no narratives to protect themselves. They've tried everything else, denial, distraction, deflection, none of it has worked. Because conviction doesn't play by human rules. It doesn't care about self-image. It doesn't yield to charm. When God is the one driving a person toward accountability, they show up differently. They will come stuttering, not smiling. They will come sweating, not self-assured. They will come emotionally bankrupt, spiritually naked, and desperate to be heard. Not because they finally value you, but because they finally see themselves, and it terrifies them. They never expected to see you standing. They never thought you'd survive what they did. Part of them believed you would always be wounded, always waiting, always needing their validation to feel whole again. But you're not that person anymore. And that alone is enough to destabilize them. Because now they're not facing the same version of you that they left. You are not trembling. You are not chasing. You are not even angry. You are calm. You are quiet, and your silence is deafening. What do you say to someone who tried to destroy you, but failed? Nothing. You let the moment speak for itself. You let the Holy Spirit do the talking. You let them feel the full weight of a presence they cannot manipulate. The presence of God resting on you, keeping you calm, keeping you whole, keeping you elevated. And that will do more to break them than any words ever could. They won't know how to explain the shift, why their confidence vanished, why their chest tightens when they think of you, why their dreams are filled with your face, not angry, not bitter, just still. That stillness is what they feared the most, because it means they lost the power, they lost the position, they lost the illusion. All they have now is the truth, and the trembling that truth brings. And when they finally speak, you will see it. They are no longer standing in the same pride they used to shield themselves with. That shield has cracked. That armor has rusted. Their voice will break because the weight is real. The silence they gave you is now their teacher, and they are learning, slowly, painfully, what it feels like to face someone they can no longer control. This is what divine reversal looks like. Not revenge, not rage, but a sacred flipping of the scales, where the proud are brought low and the humble are lifted, where you, once on your knees in heartbreak, now stand clothed in strength, and where they, once towering in ego, now approach you not as conquerors, but as beggars of mercy. It is not you they fear, it is what you represent. You are the evidence that God is real, that truth rises, that the proud fall, and that he defends his own in due time. You are proof that a soft heart in the hands of God is more powerful than any hard heart ruled by pride. And they will see it, not just with their eyes, but with their spirit. Because now, for the first time, they are trembling, not before you, but before the God who sent them back. And as they tremble, trying to find words, something even more powerful will begin to rise in the room. Your peace. Not just as a feeling, but as evidence that you've been healed, elevated, and moved far beyond where they left you. Your peace is the proof you no longer belong to the past. It's one of the most profound, holy moments in the healing journey, when you realize you're no longer triggered by the very thing that used to crush you. It doesn't come with fanfare. No one throws a party. There is no applause, no grand announcement. It's quiet, still, almost undetectable from the outside, but within your spirit, something sacred shifts, something eternal settles, and for the first time in what feels like forever, you are not ruled by the past. You're not reliving it. You're not rehearsing conversations in your head. You're not planning how you'll respond if they text, call, or show up. In fact, you haven't thought about them in days, maybe weeks, and when you do, it no longer feels like swallowing glass. It's just a memory, nothing more. That's what true peace feels like. And that peace is not man-made. It's not something you earned by trying harder or thinking positively. It wasn't found in a quote on social media or a new self-help routine. No, it came from God, from the same God who saw what they did to you in secret, from the same God who counted every tear you cried when no one else believed your story, from the same God who stood beside you while you were ignored, humiliated, slandered, and discarded. He is the one who lifted the weight. That's why your peace confuses them. They expected you to stay stuck in the version of yourself they left behind, shattered, unstable, desperate for closure. They expected you to spiral, to post about them, to chase, to unravel. They assumed your peace would always depend on their presence or absence. But what they didn't know is that you were never waiting for them to return. You were waiting on God. And while they were moving on, or pretending to, God was moving within you. He wasn't rushing you. He wasn't shaming you for your emotions. He was gentle. He sat with you in the quiet. He rewrote your thoughts in the middle of the night. He reminded you who you were before they ever lied to you, before they distorted your reflection, before they made you question your own voice. And piece by piece, he gave you back to yourself. Not the version of you they broke, but the version of you he created before the foundation of the world. You didn't just get over them. You were resurrected from the grave they tried to bury you in. This peace, it's not surface level. It's not pretending. It's not forced. It's rooted in divine identity. It's what happens when you've walked through the fire and realized you were never alone in it. When you've wrestled through betrayal and discovered that truth was your only weapon. When you've let go of needing them to validate your pain, because God already did. You no longer need them to admit what they did for you to be okay. You no longer crave their apology to sleep at night. You no longer carry bitterness as a shield. Why? Because you carry God's presence now, and that presence has replaced what their absence tried to take. You're not the same, not because you worked harder, but because grace carried you. And now you live in the reality of something they cannot replicate, fake, or understand. Your peace is not the absence of pain. It's the presence of the Holy Spirit anchoring you in truth. It's the eternal fingerprint of God on your soul. It's the irrefutable evidence that the past no longer owns you. So when they come back, and yes, they will, they'll be looking for a door that no longer exists. They'll be hoping to step into a chapter that's already closed. They'll expect you to be flustered, uncertain, emotional, hesitant. But what they'll find is calm. What they'll find is someone who has nothing left to prove, nothing left to fix, and nothing left to lose. What they'll find is a person they no longer have access to. Because peace is a boundary. Peace is a decision. Peace is a throne built in the aftermath of pain, where only God is allowed to reign. They might try to revisit what they destroyed. They might try to offer apologies, explanations, or excuses. But they'll quickly realize something they were never prepared for. You're not angry. You're not heartbroken. You're not waiting. You're calm. Not physically, not geographically, but spiritually, emotionally, mentally. You have moved on. Not into denial, but into destiny. Because what God has for you now is far greater than anything they ever could have given. Your story didn't end with their departure. It began with their absence. Because once they left, God had space to move. And He moved. He healed. He rebuilt. He established something in you so solid, so sacred, that no amount of false love, fake closure, or manipulative tactics could ever touch it again. This peace is your proof. Proof that you're not stuck. Proof that healing is real. Proof that freedom is possible. Proof that you are no longer who they left. And that is the justice they never saw coming. This is a confrontation, not a reunion, but a divine ending. You waited for this moment, without even realizing you were waiting. Somewhere deep inside, you imagined what it would be like if they ever came back. Maybe they would apologize. Maybe they would take responsibility. Maybe they would finally acknowledge the damage they caused. You didn't want revenge. You just wanted truth. You wanted to be seen, really seen, for what you endured. And now, after all this time, they're here, standing in front of you. But what you thought would be the start of healing between you is actually the closure God planned without their permission. Because this isn't a second chance. This isn't the start of reconciliation. This isn't the next chapter. This is the final page. The one where the lies end, the masks fall, the excuses unravel, and everything they ran from, every sin, every betrayal, every calculated silence, is now laid bare in the presence of the very person they tried to break. They didn't come back to reconcile. They were sent back to face what they tried to escape. Not by coincidence, not by their own will, but by the heavy, holy hand of God. Because the same God who allowed them to leave is now requiring them to return, not to win you back, but to face what they did to someone who belonged to Him. And here's the holy twist. You no longer need what you thought you would. You don't need the apology to feel whole. You don't need their sorrow to validate your worth. You don't even need their confession to believe your truth. You've already been vindicated, not by them, but by the one who saw it all. What you're feeling now isn't anticipation, it's completion. This moment doesn't carry the emotional chaos it once would have. You're not shaking. You're not panicking. You're not scrambling for the right words. You are grounded. You are calm. You are still. Because God already did what they could never do. He healed you. And that healing didn't need their cooperation. That freedom didn't wait for their understanding. That restoration didn't require their remorse. You are not standing in this moment to revisit what was. You are standing here to release what will never be again, because they are not here to stay. They are not here to be part of your next season. They are here as part of the conclusion. Their role in your story has already ended, and this confrontation is not an open door, but a holy lock being turned for the final time. They may speak with tears in their eyes. They may look for warmth in your tone. They may hope for softness, for some sign that they still have access to the version of you who once would have bent to keep the peace. But that version of you is no longer present. That version died the night they abandoned you, the moment they chose ego over empathy, the day they slandered you while you prayed for them. That version, the one who waited, wept and wilted under their silence, has been buried under layers of divine healing and grace, and the you who stands before them now is covered in glory. You've been forged in fire. You've walked through valleys they never even knew they created. You've stood alone in nights they caused and survived days they never had to see. And through it all, God was with you, restoring, reshaping, and rewriting your future. This confrontation isn't about punishment. It's about positioning. It's about letting them see with their own eyes that you're no longer accessible to the person they were when they hurt you. You're not cold. You're not cruel. You're not arrogant. You're done. Done explaining. Done excusing. Done carrying their weight. This is not about hate. It's about holy release. You're not called to walk backward. You're not called to resurrect what God buried. You're not called to recycle your pain for another lesson. The lesson has already been learned. The justice has already been written. This moment is not for restoration.